Trump came up with a new scheme, rig the system.
This is a war. We are at war.
I'm going to call special session after special session after special session with the same agenda items on there.
I have signed the civil arrest warrants. We will work with DPS to locate members.
Their Schiff said, Donald Trump, you have poked the bear, and we will punch back.
So it looks like we're in a bit of a redistricting war happening across the country in various states. Now, in the state of Texas, Texas Republicans are pushing to redistrict a new congressional map that will give the GOP 5 additional House seats following next November. And given that gerrymandering is already controversial in itself, and both parties do it, the response from the Democrats wasn't so good. Now, Democrats have retaliated by threatening to redistrict maps in California, Illinois, and New York. And Republicans have responded to this retaliation and have retaliated against the Democrats' retaliation by threatening to redistrict maps in states like Nebraska and South Carolina. And this is a bit of a back and forth going across the country. It looks like a lot of states, more so than usual, are trying to redistrict their maps in favor of one party or another, depending on which party has more power or controls more legislative seats or, local governments or entities within that state. And so Texas Republicans are very, very close to winning the argument and getting a new congressional map that adds 5 new House seats for the GOP. And several House Democrats within the state of Texas have actually been redistricted out of their districts and have lost them entirely, most notably rising star within the Democratic Party, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. And so Texas Democrats in the state legislature have even protested these redistricting efforts by fleeing to other states such as Massachusetts, New York, and most notably Illinois. And they're taking refuge over there to prevent the process, or an attempt to prevent the process in the state legislature in Texas from approving this congressional map, as well as trying to halt other legislative activity in an attempt to signal to Texas Republicans that they will not be tolerating this. And so the Texas House of Representatives has sent arrest warrants for these Democratic defectors that are taking refuge in other states. And so things are getting very tense overall. There's a lot of back and forth going on. But, many might be wondering, why are Texas Republicans trying so hard to effectively rig the congressional map in Texas in favor of themselves to gain 5 seats? The answer is simple. The 2026 midterms, which are set to happen next November and are less than 2 years away. Now, typically in a midterm election, the party that is out of power, more often than not, is favored. The party out of power will likely gain seats in either chamber of Congress, if not take back at least one of those 2 chambers. Now, we saw this in 2018 in President Donald Trump's first term in office, in which Democrats took back the House by storm. And then just 4 years later, during President Joe Biden's term in office, Republicans took back the House as well. Now, the Senate is a different story. In the past 2 midterms, 2018 and 2022, neither party that was out of power really gained the Senate. In fact, the party that was in power gained Senate seats. So we'll see what happens there. But, given historical trends and just, patterns, Democrats will likely be favored to take back the House in 2026, given that Republican Donald Trump is in office and he has his own issues. But that's another story for a different day. And Republicans are trying so hard to effectively keep their House majority, so they're pushing for these redistricting efforts in an attempt to lock Democrats out of power for taking back the House in 2026. And, this is just, follows the trend of American politics being just so unpredictable. It has been for roughly the past 10 years, and we don't know what's going to happen. Typically the party out of power, the Democrats, would be on track to take back at least one of the 2 chambers of Congress, but we just don't know what's going to happen at this point, and we just have to wait and see. We'll see if, the map in Texas gets approved. We'll see if Democrats are able to counter this because they're pushing for the redistricting efforts in favor of themselves in California, New York, and Illinois. And we'll see what states Republicans try to retaliate against that retaliation. And Democrats, once again, will probably retaliate. It'll be a back and forth. And we just don't know which party will end up controlling the House following the 2026 midterms. But either way, anything could happen, and we'll just have to wait and see.
So these are sober times. And so I'm deeply grateful to all of you for standing up and for being here today. I'm grateful for all the elected officials that are here, members of Congress, not just our 2 U.S. senators, to members of the California legislature for having the courage of their convictions, for standing tall and standing firm, to recognize today is Liberation Day in the state of California. And as Senator Schiff said, Donald Trump, you have poked the bear, and we will punch back. Here's the good thing about California, folks. We're the size of 21 state populations combined. We're the 4th largest economy in the world. We're not a small, isolated state. I know they say don't mess with Texas. Well, don't mess with the great Golden State. And so we're here with our state of mind, with the clarity of our purpose and conviction, to recognize that we need to reconcile the world we're living in. We do have agency. We're not bystanders in this world. We can shape the future, and that's what we intend to do today. We're here because Donald Trump, on January 6th, tried to light democracy on fire, tried to wreck this country, tried to steal an election, as Alex just said, by trying to dial in for 11, almost 12,000 votes. And here we are, in open and plain sight, before one vote is cast in the 2026 midterm election. And here he is once again trying to rig the system. He doesn't play by a different set of rules. He doesn't believe in the rules. And as a consequence, we need to disabuse ourselves of the way things have been done. It's not good enough to just hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, and talk about the way the world should be. We have got to recognize the cards that have been dealt. And we have got to meet fire with fire. And we've got to be held to a higher level of accountability. So that's what this is about. It's not complicated. We're doing this in reaction to a president of the United States that called a sitting governor of the state of Texas and said, find me 5 seats. We're doing it in reaction to that act. We're doing it mindful of our higher angels and better angels. We're doing it mindful that we want to model better behavior, as we've been doing for 15 years in the state of California with our independent redistricting commission. But we cannot unilaterally disarm. We can't stand back and watch this democracy disappear. We can't stand back and watch this democracy disappear district by district all across this country, not just in Texas, but in Missouri, where J.D. Vance went just a week ago, in Indiana, in places like Ohio, in places like Florida. We need to stand up, not just California. Other blue states need to stand up. We need to be firm in our resolve.